Good evening, everybody. Yes, it's the Old Wolf with you live again for another episode of the Witch and the Wolf Wisdom Podcast. It is 8:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, February 14th, 2023. Happy Weaponized Empathy Day. That's how I'm going to look at it. It's part of the framework of tonight's episode, The Darkness Within. I really feel that, to some degrees, if we don't talk about certain dynamics of things, it's just going to keep fucking repeating. So, yeah, tonight's going to be that kind of night. My brother Derek Smith is going to come on later, and we're going to blow shit up. We're going to throw some clay ducks in the air and shoot them and see how far we can blow them the fuck up.
That sounds like fun.
Yes. But yes, I believe today, and listen, this is not to disparage against anybody that, love is a beautiful thing. It should be celebrated. It should be encouraged. However, today is nothing more really than weaponized empathy, especially for those people who don't have that dynamic. And it'll be, again, one of the things we'll be talking about a little bit later. So, as always, the views, expressions, thoughts, etc., 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 expressed are mine or mine alone unless you decide you choose to share them and subscribe to them as well. Beautiful thing about free will. But yeah, that's me. Most, if not all, the memes and things that I share come from other people simply because of the simple dynamic. I don't have the time to make them myself, and other people are better. And I think it represents more, again, of that group dynamic, that strength in numbers. So, yeah, that's what I do. Sometimes I will hit upon specific things. One of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit later is the new CDC report that came out regarding the state of our children, which I don't think is really going to come to any surprise to anybody. But, yeah, that is how it is.
It's gonna get deep in here.
It's going to get deep. So, a couple things I want to talk about real quick first. Last week we had our sister Ashley Hart on and graciously shared some of her experiences and thoughts. I'll throw her promo up a little bit later in the show, but a couple friends of mine have some shows coming up, so I'm going to talk about that. But again, one of the things we're going to do tonight, I have a couple submissions from the Wolf Pack that I'm going to read and share. Thank you again, everybody that's sending those in. Really great stuff. Again, I'm going to try and get to all of it through the podcast. But if you have a story, an idea, a song, music, poetry, a question, whatever, please feel free to share it. Send it to wolf@oldwolfmusic.com. Again, we're going to try and use everything that comes through to the best of our ability. And one of them will be randomly selected to get a free reading with none other than the witch herself, Lady Shiya.
Yeah.
And again, this will be random. It's not going to be based on the strength. It's not going to be like, hey, this person's submission was better than the other. It's just, hey, everybody that submits, we're going to throw your name in a hat and, we're going to let the universe decide. So that's how that's going to go. So yeah, please keep them coming. wolf@oldwolfmusic.com. Doesn't matter what it is. Can be anything. We will feature it here on the show. Free of charge, no strings attached, no customer service applied.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you don't like it, fuck you. No.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So, with that being said, I want to talk about a couple of upcoming shows that my brothers down in the land south yonder, a.k.a. New Jersey, central New Jersey, have some shows coming up. Okay, the first one coming up, my brother Greg Carr-Schumann, who's now the lead singer for a band called Exit Strategy. Exit Strategy played at the Arts for Autism event. Mark, their drummer, graciously sat in with us, helped us out with some technical issues with the drums. These are some really good guys. They're going to be, welcoming Greg into their pack February 18th. So that's this weekend, okay, in Toms River, New Jersey, the Toms River Hub, okay, 1850 Hooper Avenue. I'm pretty sure this place, I don't think there's a cover charge, but you can look that up. But listen, if you happen to be around in the Toms River, New Jersey area, and you're hearing this, and you want to go hear some rock and roll, these are some good guys that put on a good show. So yeah, Exit Strategy, February 18th, 4 days away. So, with that being Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. Saturday Night Live, Exit Strategy. Hey, listen, I have known Greg for many, 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 many years. He was best man at my wedding. He's a great guy. He performed with us at the autism event. Again, obviously, if you're in Ireland, you're not going to this show. But what you can do is you can go on Facebook. You can look them up. You can, support them, show them a little love with a like or a subscribe or, whatever little things we can do. Granted, in the world we live in, sometimes it's the little things that make a difference. So, brothers, have a great show. Sorry we won't be able to be there. But I know you will kick ass and hope to see you guys down there soon. So, yeah. Another brother of mine's got a show coming up. March 3rd. Little over 2.5 weeks away. At the Stone Pony. Now, this is going to be a showcase. Broken Past is coming out with their new singer. Coming out with a completely different show. They're going to be playing with Black Rose Rebellion and Spawn Ranch. Again, two bands that also played at the autism event back in September. Really good guys, really good musicians. And the new band on the scene, Corbett Corpus, will be playing, and they're a good band as well, too. No, they were not at the autism event, but I think that was just more of a scheduling thing. Their bass player, Ray Hurley, was a member of the Under My Skin for Life Foundation. He's also part of the driving force behind a group called the Bootleg Bastards down there. So, he's been involved in the scene. He's a musician. He's a good guy. He was at Chris Miller's birthday party, and he jammed a little bit with us there. I've known him for a few years. He's a good guy. You know what I mean? So, definitely a show. Again, if you're going to be in the Jersey Shore area, Stone Pony, iconic place. A lot of great musicians over the years. Really great place to catch a show. And again, March 3rd, 2023, Broken Past, Black Rose Rebellion, Spawn Ranch, and Corbett Corpus. Doors are 7 o'clock. Show is going to be 7:30 to 11:30. That sometimes will vary a little bit, depending upon, how everybody's doing. I've seen shows go much later there, but that's how it goes with live performance. Jamie, hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. So, yeah, again, if you're in the Jersey Shore area, go down, check them out. Now, again, you're saying to yourself, well, how do I get tickets for that kind of thing? Well, I'm glad you asked, because my brother Tony is actually very easy to get in touch with. You can reach Broken Past at www.brokenpastnj.com. You can also reach Tony at www.pappostickercompany.com. And you can also reach him at www.undermyskincat2, as in the number 2.com. They're all up on the screen for those of you who are watching and not just listening. So yeah, my brother Tony's an easy guy to get in touch with. Tell him the old wolf sent you. Go down, enjoy a show. Listen, life's about living, And again, same analogy. If you live in Australia and there's just no way you're going to get out to their show, we understand. We don't blame you. Show them a little bit of love. Go on their website, give them a like. Say, hey, the wolf told me about you. You can go on YouTube, check out their music. You know what I mean? The next time you're thinking about buying some, some hokey personalized gifts, check out the Papo Sticker Company. Talk to Tony. Tony makes customized gifts. He can take a picture of your grandmother, make it into a punching bag if that's what you're into.
Why did you go from grandmother?
I'm just saying, listen.
I'm actually paying attention to you.
See, my mother as a grandmother would get a fucking huge kick out of that. She's like, that's the only way you're ever going to kick my ass, so go for it.
Yeah, that's about.
See, it's all about content.
It's a valid
It really just depends on how you look at it. But like I said, check them out. Show them a little bit of love if you can. Strengthen numbers. That's what we try and do. So yes, one of the other things, I'm going to pop this up here, new graphic. Da-da-da-da. Shiya has been very active with their mentorship circle.
Oh, it has been growing.
Yes.
Good. Growing.
So much so that I had to block the notifications on it because it was blowing my fucking phone up.
Yep.
Now, again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, again, it was the earlier analogy. I don't have time sometimes to remember my own fucking name, let alone create memes or respond to everything that I would love to respond to. So part of what I do, again, a lot on Tuesday nights is talk about shit. You know what I mean? Be it something, in a context. Last week we talked about some of the dynamics from that. But why don't you tell us, Witch, about what's going on right now specifically? Because I know you're not going to do this.
Well, I've been
forever.
We've been doing Teaching Thursdays, and Teaching Thursdays are fantastic. I'll tell you what, one of the biggest things I'm proud of is last Teaching Thursday, I did a longer teaching than normal. It was an hour and a half long that taught you how to use every single tarot card in the deck in an hour and a half in a way that you can remember.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. It's not like the in-depth, let's learn every card, but it's let's get enough of an idea so you can pull out any tarot deck anywhere and be able to do at least a decent basic reading. We've been doing a lot of stuff like that, and chats and things, and I do have a special that we've been doing right now, which I think you were mentioning, is you can get your first month for free. Go to ladyshiya.com/trial. Or just go to ladyshiya.com, and there's a trial button there to try it out. You can join, and the first month is free, and after that, it's $25 a month. And with that, you get all the stuff that's listed there, including a free reading every Monday on my live.
Yes. I know the Monday nights have become quite the hot spot with that because, again, basically what you've done is you've created a group that, again, let's really be blunt about it, for most readers and stuff like that, you're basically giving twice that away in the free readings that you do just to create an environment to maintain the circle for people as a learning resource, as a community resource.
And to me, I like the whole value added thing, and I want to create, it's my dream to create a place where we are connecting, we are growing, it's a circle, nobody's above each other, everybody supports each other, we all have answers and things to contribute to it, and I am a facilitator. I'm dumping out my 35 years of knowledge, whatever I've accumulated there, some of the shit that I've forgotten that I should teach.
But you also have a lot of other people with knowledge and experience that share. That's what I found that's incredibly powerful and beautiful about it, is you have so many different people involved at different levels. So, it isn't just a static object. It's something that continues to grow and develop. I just had a moment, you were talking about the whole circle dynamic, and, I'm thinking, Knights of the Round Table, but it's like, all right, witches of the Round Table.
It's like that. That's why we
come forth, ye witches, join us around the round table. It is a round table.
No,
that is to say, it is a round in a circle dynamic.
It's an energy circle.
It's an energy circle.
Yes.
All right.
We're all in the circle. Come to the circle. We're all as one.
By the way,
yeah,
I got a hole in my pocket. Random. Yeah, well, I like doing that type of shit.
Yeah.
But, however, if anybody knows where that little quip is from, and I'm not going to repeat it.
I know.
I know you know, and you shut the fuck up. But if you know it, you post it, and you'll get a free reading from me.
Oh, wow.
The wolf.
The wolf will give a reading.
Yes, and not just any reading, but a demonic reading.
Oh, my.
So, yeah, there's that. I don't expect anybody's going to get it, so I feel quite comfortable that I can kind of dance out on a limb here and go, hee-hee. But, but you never know. The universe may say, hey, we're going to call you on that shit, Wolf. So we'll see if anybody gets it.
I would be impressed.
So, yeah, check it out. ladyshiya.com. You can always reach out to her. She does the lives. Sometimes you'll catch me out on the lives. A lot of times she has me either trapped in the fucking doll or, slaving over a computer, creating, backgrounds. We were joking about that,
just before the podcast.
Since today's such a loving day, did she really, she just loves me for, my ability to make music.
I just love him for his music.
And stuff for her.
Yeah. I just love you for music.
Just love it for the free music.
I just love you for the free music. Yep. And how awesome you are. And oh, wait, I'm not supposed to get all mushy on the podcast, am I?
Yeah, I made a promise, Jamie, that I can't say it again, so you will have to literally dip out, rewind.
Oh, no. Can I do it?
No.
I'll do it.
No, I'm a wolf of my word. That's how it goes.
Well, you're not breaking
That's
your word.
part. No, you
it's
know.
It's a loophole.
It's a loophole, and you shall. You're a fucking metagamer, and I'm not going to go out.
I am a metagamer.
It was in a moment. It was an impromptu moment. And again, in fairness, you're friends of ours, so I would give you guys that for free anyway. So technically, you're family, so you can't compete in these contests.
Yeah, I married them.
Yeah,
so,
I'm gonna. Oh, that's right. See, I forgot. See, since you decided to make yourself known.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun. These are our brother and sister, Derek and Lee.
And Shiya's back.
And Shiya's back, and that is. Why don't you tell people what that
is a hand fasting. It's a wedding, but it is a hand fasting. It's an old style, pagan style wedding. Actually, the way that Lee and Derek framed it out was a beautiful combination of a lot of the modern wedding kind of things. As you see, Lee is wearing a beautiful traditional wedding dress, and she did her walk down the aisle. However, the traditions that were included in it, we cast a circle. And it was done in a pagan style. So it was a beautiful mesh of modern and pagan.
It was really reflective of them versus, all of the construct shit that I like to talk about. It incorporated some of those dynamics, and I thought it's incredibly beautiful. But again...
So what you see there is me binding their hands together.
Yes.
That is the symbolism that while they were once, individuals, they are now bound together. They're still individuals, but every one of their actions, with them bound together, affects and impacts the other. So it requires cooperation. It requires moving together, communication, all the great things in a relationship. So that's where the hand fasting thing came about from.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
I actually did a little piece of custom music for them that they used for the wedding. I was very honored and humbled to do that little dynamic for them. But yes, that's the guy that's going to be talking to me in a few minutes. And like I said, we're going to throw some shit up in the air and we're going to fucking shoot it because I think it deserves to be fucking...
Let the shit fly.
Well, I mean, again, all joking aside, we love you guys incredibly. You know what I mean? I was really excited. When Derek was like, yeah, I'll come on the show. We'll talk some shit. I was like, cool.
Oh, my gosh. You guys were like for 2 hours one night just talking the shit back and forth, back and forth.
But there is a method to my madness, and sometimes they're expressed in different ways. And I thought this particular meme really hits to the heart of it. My brother Dave Chappelle, you know him. You love him. Even if you don't want to admit it. I love him. I don't want to suck his dick, love him, but he gets that dynamic, so we can just move on from that part. But here it is. Here is the meme, okay? It's from the Chappelle Show. It's an alteration, obviously, as every fucking meme is. But here it is, for those of you who cannot see. When you share memes to trick people into learning about themselves, because trauma is more approachable that way.
It really is, though.
Yeah, and the bottom caption is, modern problems require modern solutions.
Fuck yeah.
Listen, art imitates life, life imitates art. Here it is. Some shit is just too fucking disgusting to deal with it any other way besides to fucking run it through humor or sarcasm or sexuality or any number of analogies, because anything else is just ultimately fucking worse. And it really goes to, again, tonight's title, The Darkness Within, because guess what? The darkness is in all of us, okay? Anybody who wants to try and pretend otherwise is full of shit. I'm sorry, okay? Now, everybody handles it differently, and people reflect it differently. Obviously, the dynamic. Words mean nothing without the actions to back them up. Therefore, those actions define said dynamics. I know it's a little bit of convoluted, a lot of words there to try and jumble together. But what it simply means, what you do defines who you are.
Yep.
Okay? Okay?
Okay.
You can
Okay.
take it from any number of little twists. You know, you could have Russell Crowe, full gladiator, you know. What you do in life echoes in eternity. You know what I mean? You can go that route. It's the same fucking message. But here it is. This is, to some degrees, the lesser of the two evils. And I really, again, I believe it is a dynamic of magic. It takes an aspect of magic to be able to take darkness and make it into something not as horrifying, not as frightening, to be able to translate it so that way people don't live in its shadow constantly. And, you know, again, it reflects to my little earlier jab about, you know, happy weaponized empathy day, because today is designed as purely marketing. Okay. It's again, bastardized from another dynamic in history and religion within, I believe, the Greeks and Pan. Okay. But here it is. You're not really a man if you go out and get her that beautiful Jared diamond. Okay.
And unless you say it with diamonds, that nobody's listening.
Right. Nobody's listening. You know, you're not a man if you don't go out and buy the fucking diamond.
You should go into severe debt to do so.
Right. Well,
otherwise,
I mean,
you
but
don't
of course, you know, that's how love is
debt,
defined. Right. But here's the other side of that ugly, horrible coin. If you don't happen to be with somebody, if you happen to be single for whatever reason, stuff, all of a sudden you're less than. You're not worthy of love. You're not worthy of attention.
Bullshit.
So it creates all these insane extra fucking pits of darkness so that way somebody can make a buck. Yep. Okay? Because really, if we're going to have the honest conversation, in any dynamic of relationship, that love should be expressed on a daily basis. You shouldn't need a Hallmark holiday to do something nice or feel love or express those feelings. Again, this is weaponized empathy.
Look at what?
Yeah, and I'm fucking ignoring it, and I'm not. See, this is a beautiful thing.
She went back to listen to it.
I know, and this is why Shiya and I had an earlier conversation about why I don't always put live chat in, because Jamie nailed it, but I already had to disqualify because they're family, and it's not fair. But yes, you are absolutely correct. My sister Gia, welcome.
Hey,
great to see you.
Now, you brought up an interesting point, weaponized empathy. I believe that there's two dynamics that we should be looking at, weaponized empathy and utilized empathy. Because this meme that you have up on the screen, you know, when you share memes to trick people into learning about themselves, that is not weaponized, in my opinion. That is utilizing the quantity of empathy.
I disagree. I still think it's weaponized empathy, but you can use a weapon to defend or a weapon to harm. Okay? It's all in the context of how you use said aspect. Again, sometimes, and, I hate to say this, I believe in full disclosure, people are conditioned, but sometimes they're fucking stupid. Okay? And I'm sorry. Okay? But just because you're stupid doesn't mean I'm going to stand there and watch you drown. So if I have to trick you to get you to grab the fucking rope, then I'm going to trick you. I'm going to lie to you. I'm going to say whatever the fuck I have to in the moment because it's the lesser evil. And I'll deal with the rest of it afterwards because nobody should have to fucking drown alone, okay? I was going to go more into detail tonight about some of the other aspects, but I decided I wanted to give some of the other recent events, especially down in New Jersey, with this young girl who killed herself out of respect for her father and the rest of their family. I'm going to avoid any direct references to it besides, some of the generic, conversational aspects. Because, again, I think it's very relevant to what this CDC report that just came out talks about. We're in bad shape, okay? Our kids are in bad fucking shape, and we need to fucking address it. But with that, real quick, I'm going to throw on a track, one of my darker tracks, but it also speaks to what I believe, some of these conditioned elements are. It's called Suffer the Children. The animation was a guy from Caltech who did it. It's a take on Hansel and Gretel. So I'm going to play that. I'm going to get my brother Derek on the phone so I can get him in on this conversation. And then we'll be back live to jump deeper into the mix, as they say. So we'll be back in, about 4 minutes or so. All right, we're back live. That's right. Yes, we're live again now. And just a, little off the, cuff type of thing. We were talking about my dick. And, we all agreed.
Like our Checo behind the scenes.
Yeah, we all agreed that it's probably not a good idea to take that anything beyond. But I believe it again in that full disclosure. So I got my brother Derek on with us.
That's a hell of a segue.
He is definitely a comrade in arms. We see very much eye to eye in a lot of dynamics. And one of the things we were talking about last week after last week's podcast was the dynamic of weaponized empathy. How much it is in our society, in our cultures. And, again, short of going off into a fucking Brazilian rainforest at this juncture, it has encroached globally now. There are not many places that you can go that you're not going to experience in some variation. And a lot of it is sexual, the sexual dynamics. And I'm not just talking sexual in that pure erotic dynamic. I'm talking sexual in, aspects of body imagery, sexual in regards to class dynamics, what our roles are supposed to be, gender identification. Again, there are a lot of variations on it, but one of the more damaging element, again, tends to be with the depression aspects that are the side effects of things, shitty body imagery, traumatic abuse, bullying. And these aspects are, by their very nature, weaponized empathy. We say something hurtful, we target somebody. Hey, you're fat. Hey, you're fucking ugly. It is empathy that is weaponized. You're preying upon an emotional variable. So, Derek, I'm going to let you jump in. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and stuff, and throw a little bit of that insight of yours into this equation, because I know you have danced with this very dance.
Oh, yeah. My name's Derek Smith. I mean, I was a paramedic for 14 years. I got T-boned by a bus and went through being bedbound to having to open up about a lot of my psychiatric stuff. And even now, like, I'm disabled technically based on PTSD. And a lot of the weaponized empathy, man, like, where you were talking about it is, it's like who are the role models, big role models for teens right now, like the Kim Kardashians and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, don't even get me started on that shit.
And then from being like somebody who took care of people to being somebody who went through the actual process, like there's so many loopholes and stuff, and like they just want to throw a tag on you and pitch you out the door.
Well, yeah, especially when you talk about the dynamics, like you said, when it becomes classified into the so-called mental health psychiatric dynamic, which you and I both agree is wielded rather flimsily. You know what I mean? It's like a rubber stamp. It's like, all right, we don't understand this. Here, take a pill. Off to the crazy room you go. We don't really want to address, because, unfortunately, there is no profit in curing people and making people actually healthy. They're no longer drug-seeking customers. But that's another tangent. When you first went through it, and it was one of the dynamics that struck me about your story, what was the first real element that you found as a tool to combat the aspects when, it would obviously make itself, AKA, the dark, the depression aspects?
One of the biggest things I've found as a tool the entire time, actually, is being truly educated. And if, like, you don't have the ability, get with somebody who can be a patient advocate for you. It is, like, if I hadn't been an advocate for myself, I probably wouldn't be here. I mean, I went to a facility that literally, like, their therapy time was throwing coloring books at us and crayons. Like,
yeah, no, listen, we both know the dynamic. Again, it's really not about treating most times. It's just about maintaining a compliant, environment, not unlike, herding sheep. But more specifically, what I was getting to, when you hit those moments of darkness, when we kind of hit that point where, all right, like, fuck it, we're going to do something stupid. What did you find is your first real tool in being able to combat that, to deal with it?
My biggest thing has been, one, writing things down, getting it out of your head. Whether you speak it, you write it. Like, I grew up in a family where we didn't talk about this stuff. So writing was like my best outlet. Like, just writing it down, getting it out of your thoughts, getting it out of your head, putting the energy somewhere else. And even if it's just momentarily, it gives you enough of a lapse in it to gain back that conscious state of knowing. Because, like, when I got my worst, I would have moments where, like, I knew this was something I shouldn't do, but I didn't care. And when I got to the point of trying to write things down and trying to just even yell, scream, just push it out, get it out of my head, get it expressed in some way, get rid of that energy. That's what really helped me gain control again of, like a more balance of myself, to be able to do something to help myself at that point.
And it's actually, it's a very common dynamic. Again, I use it as a musician, as a songwriter, It is one of the dynamics within 12-step recovery in doing step work. So we see the analogies a lot, not quite the same, but it does go to the simple dynamic of getting the shit out, but also to what you were, I think, trying to describe, distracting ourselves from the moment, giving us that space before reacting to try and recognize it for what it is.
Yeah.
Now, Derek, you mentioned that in your family, y'all didn't really talk about emotions or mental health. How, as as an individual, and specifically as a man, because I feel like men are told not to feel emotions in this world.
How dare you say that, woman?
It's so true, though. But how did you become emotionally self-aware enough to be able to start processing, to be able to start writing down, to be able to face issues like depression that comes with everything else that you've been dealing with?
And this is gonna sound sad, and it's not meant for empathy or anything like that. I want anyone to really understand is that it took somebody showing me I was worth it. When I tried to kill myself, my ex-wife would come in and interrupted me in the middle. So I stopped. I gained that composure back, and I went to the hospital. And like I said, I was a paramedic for 14 years, and all these nurses and people that I've worked with were coming in crying, hugging me, telling me they're there for my support, and showing me that I was worth more than what I thought I was at the time.
In some ways, you had your "It's a Wonderful Life" moment. You were George Bailey, and you got to see the dynamic of how much you impact. Because I know one of the other dynamics, and we talked a little bit about it, but something that we've both seen, especially when you deal with things like for firefighters, paramedics, combat troops, when you see repetitively these dynamics of trauma and horror, there is a correlated effect. There is a cause and effect dynamic. It's not unlike, working in a radiation zone, you get exposed to fucking radiation. And granted, we're still just really beginning to touch the surface of how we look at energies like emotions, but we do know scientifically that there is, again, a cause and effect dynamic with different types of emotional energies. That's where you can, again, create a mob mentality, or, again, like with toddlers, you put a bunch of toddlers in a room, one starts crying, they all start crying, because, again, they haven't built those conditioned tools of individual reaction. They're just responding to the vibe, as they say.
That begs an interesting question for Derek. Derek, you said 14 years as a paramedic?
Yeah.
How did you, as an empath, survive dealing and helping everybody in those massively traumatic moments where paramedics are normally present?
Yeah, I got to tell you, brother, I did it for a year, and I almost lost my fucking mind.
How did you survive 14 years of that shit?
I was able to keep compassion and empathy, but the problem is that everything does build up. It's not a matter of some people say, oh, they turn it off and block it out. You do get into that kind of state. Whenever an medical emergency happens in my family, I go straight to medical. I'm so solely focused on that I'm able to put it aside. Anytime I was taking a run, it was there was a disease that I was trying to beat.
So it was a motivation factor in the moment?
It was that, and it was the fact that once I got out of that, I went to the gym a lot. That was my stress relief. You have to find some kind of outlet, because that energy will build up and just overwhelm you.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you say, and again, just from the simple dynamic of your experience, that it still, even at the end, had a correlative effect on you when it was all said and done?
Oh, yeah. It's had a major effect on me. I've balanced between herbal and actual pharmaceuticals because I do the research into them and what I want to take versus what I don't want to take due to the effects. But like, I take certain medicines that keep me from dreaming. Just for the simple fact is like the stuff that I dream of or stuff people should never have to live through.
Well, they're traumatic memories that obviously, in burying them in the moment that you had to, they're still unfortunately filed away for future reference in the subconscious. And that's really the theme of Dante's Inferno is, certain things once you see, you can't unsee. You can dance around it, you can build defensive mechanisms, but they still have an impact. And that's really, again, I think reflective of the darkness in all of us, that we can't avoid the dynamics of the trauma. We can't avoid the demons, the darkness again, but we can learn how to not only survive with it, but also to some degrees how to use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it gives us insight.
And I think a lot of people's problems are they don't want to recognize that they have these demons because like you mentioned earlier with the men being the primaries, we've always been taught like it was weakness, it was this, it was
Absolutely.
that. So
yeah, I grew up in that same dynamic.
It would rather be put aside and not recognized. And the thing is like it's not the fact of whether you have demons or not or anything like that. It's whether you can control them, whether you can have power over them to keep yourself healthy. Like, I have a very, very fond knowing that I have these demons. I have these things that can create major anger problems, things like that. And in which case, I try to always, like, focus more on, okay, keep myself healthy, keeping myself strong enough mentally to not only recognize that they're there, but be prepared for when they try to take over, because that's literally what it becomes. Mental health, it becomes a fight.
Yes,
over and over and over
analogy.
again of just whether you have control of you or your demons have control of you. And that works with addiction, that works with any kind of mental health. I mean, that analogy focuses so much on how we live our day-to-day lives and whether we are able to live them healthily or we crush under the pressure.
Right. Yeah. And again, it is a constant struggle, but it can also be equivalated to a dance. You know what I mean? Because some of it is once you put in some of the work and once you open yourself up to some of these different types of dynamics, it makes it a little bit easier to some degree. You never can truly ignore it. But I was using an analogy earlier with Shiya that, sometimes, especially when you look at the dynamics of context, you look at the demon, as you said, you have to watch the anger aspect. You have to make sure that it isn't, getting control in a situation that, it's not appropriate. It's not going to be helpful. But on the flip side, and I know this with myself, used in a defensive context, if somebody's going to hurt my family or if there's a context scenario, because you and I are both the type of people that would run into a building, that's on fire to save people. We wouldn't think about it. It's instinctual. You know what I'm saying? But in that analogy, I'll use my fucking demon. You know what I mean? If you're going to throw it up at me, you know what I mean? Sometimes that analogy, again, you can use darkness for a greater good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Again, it's a trickier aspect because it's easy.
Darkness is not necessarily evil. Darkness can be utilized in a good and appropriate way.
Maybe that's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
And it's like a really good analogy is something like the original Spider-Man with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
Like, and that's basically like, because you could tap into that. I tap into it a lot when it comes to protecting my family.
Derek, I have a curiosity question for you.
Okay.
You have a unique perspective based upon your years inside of the healthcare and then years receiving healthcare and a view of mental health from all those aspects. How do you feel? Is there a disparity between the views of how different people treat mental health, healthcare, empathy, emotional context between within and without? Have you seen a shift or a change in that over the years? What's your perspective on that?
Personally, within myself, I've seen a massive change on how I viewed things, basic going from inside to outside. Like, specifically, just an example, panic attacks. Like, panic attacks were always not necessarily an eye roll, but like a
Here we go again.
easy, not
Yeah.
not difficult, like not a huge emergency.
Until you've had your first one and it
having
feels like a
one
fucking heart
yourself.
attack.
Yeah, like I had one myself when I was 32, I think. It was right after my accident, and it was the first time in a car again. And I broke down, was pale, sweating, wanting to throw up. Like, I felt the absolute worst of it. And I was like, it gave me a whole new perspective on how I looked at people. But the problem, I think, is in the shift in the actual, like, society shift. I see that being so hard because of one factor: burnout. There's not enough providers versus how many patients there are. The healthcare system is not developed good enough that it's just throwing people out there instead of fixing them, and they're constantly being seen over and over and over again, and it becomes routine.
I personally think they try to maintain imaginary status quos. Again, especially in the analogy you used, without having real perspective. You either have to have real empathy or real perspective for any of these dynamics, I think, to be able to translate. So, AKA, if you can't relate to somebody, and a lot of healthcare professionals, exactly like you said, oh, they're drug seeking. Oh, here they go again, because either A, they're burnt out, or B, more times than not, they don't have any real connection, any real empathy for the dynamic. So they're not even a human being anymore. And too much of our systems really are designed to just ignore those dynamics. And again, one of the things that this CDC report really emphasized, and I want to read a small piece of this dynamic. The trends in 2021, nearly 30% of female students drank alcohol during the past 30 days. Almost 20% of female students experienced sexual violence by anyone during the past year, and 14% had been physically forced to have that. Wow. Now, those numbers jump up even more when you start getting into things like LGBTQ, any of those other dynamics. And it was close to 70% of students expressed persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness during the past year, and more than 50% had poor mental health during the past 30 days. Almost 25% attempted suicide during the past year. I mean, I think those are absolutely ridiculous fucking numbers.
I agree.
And do you want to know why they're so ridiculous?
Well, I mean, part of it is because we're finally starting to pay attention to it. I think it's been there all along.
Well, that's the thing, is it boils down to the core of, like, okay, your parents didn't recognize stuff, and that's how they taught you. And then it moves on. And that it's...
Oh, it's generation.
Not only
conditioning.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's not only like that mental health is this disease. It's one that's voluntarily passed along unknowingly. You know what I mean? Like these teachings of not addressing this and letting it build up. Because everybody has something I learned really, really early on in being a medic is everybody has their own version of an emergency. Whether I consider it to be an extreme because I see like the biggest extreme, that may be the worst thing that they've ever experienced in their life.
That's so
their
profound.
version of the worst. And that was something I learned really early on, and it changed my perspective on how I treated people and how I viewed these things.
Well,
and
I think you're absolutely dead on. I mean, some of this is, again, the breakdown that, obviously we're not teaching our children correctly in certain dynamics, because again, certain elements, and I'm a big student of, especially when you look at how like scientific reports are worded and stuff. And this is, like an opening paragraph. It says several experiences of violence are increasing, especially for certain groups of youth. These data show increases in the proportion of youth who did not go to school because of safety concerns, increases among female students experiencing sexual violence, being forced to have sex, and increases among male students experiencing electronic bullying. I mean, it's just literally the only number that seemed that they didn't address, or at least they kind of casually was like, well, it doesn't look any worse, was the actual number of successful suicides. But the attempted suicide rate, spiked incredibly. Now, again, some of that you can throw the pandemic at, but I think it's also indicative more, and I'll use the analogy for those of you who have not heard about the story out of central New Jersey. A young girl got beat up in her high school. The kids' iPhone, they fucking videoed it. They got put out on social media, and, again, another scenario within, a couple days, a week or so, the girl killed herself. And this had been a pattern that had been going on in the school. The girl had been through some incredible traumas and had basically been relegated to, she's just that way. But the simple dynamic that again, that we're now living in times when people will stand around and videotape an assault. You know what I mean? And then glorify it on fucking social media. I mean, if that isn't the darkness, I don't know what is. That's the bigger product, because unfortunately this girl's just a side effect. She's a casualty, collateral damage from this aspect of weaponized empathy.
And the thing I think is that a lot of this boils down to something we were actually talking about after the last one, is how the world is run on greed. Look at things that became famous off of this stuff. Look at World Star, or whatever they call it, where they do the video fights and stuff. That stuff has been around since after I got out of high school. Like,
listen, that's been the human condition. That's why they built the fucking Coliseum. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so people can sit around and watch, bloodshed.
If they televised somebody going out, if you could get paid money going out and videotaping somebody eating a frog, there'd be this thing of everybody going to the ER because they ate raw frogs and got some kind of disease.
Yeah, it's like the Tide Pod challenge. Yeah. There's a distinct level of stupidity. Lemmings following each other off the cliff. But also, again, too, the dynamics, and you hit upon one of the elements. We have set a standard now where it's okay to lie. It's actually profitable. It's okay to just take what you want because everybody else is going to do it. And if you don't fit within these particular constructs, if you don't look a particular way, one of the emails, and I'm going to get to this in a minute, I'm going to read one of the stories from the Wolfpack. It's a really good one, actually, a little bit more upbeat, but it's got some interesting dynamics. But in that context, with what we're putting out there and stuff like that, there's no incentive. There's nothing that says, well, don't act this way. And then those people who don't fit into mold, who don't make the cut per se, are just left hanging in the breeze. You don't count anymore because, according to this standard, you're no longer attractive or you're no longer productive. And I missed the point, but one of the emails I got was a woman who had graduated out of MIT, who had come from another country, had struggled literally for years to pay her own way, to get through school and do all these things. And two of the girls in her class who couldn't do shit, were fucking stupid people, should have never even been there in the first place, were using it basically as a front for their OnlyFans. And she was absolutely livid. She's just like, I've gone through all this stuff to try and, create a life and a dynamic. But yet the standard over here is if you've got an attractive pussy, you'll make lots of money. But if you're an intelligent woman with, actual skills and stuff like that, and you just happen to not be attractive, you're worthless. You know what I mean? And it really is a dynamic.
Women have been fighting for a very long time.
Obviously, but it's becoming, again, more polarized with these dynamics, like, as Derek mentioned, the Kardashian variable, as I like to call
Well,
it,
and
and the
put it in there.
OnlyFans, and the sexualization dynamics.
One of the things,
Well-
Derek, you said that pulled you out of your depression was learning that you were not worthless. So we're turning around and we're making anybody who doesn't fit a certain mold feel worthless. Yeah, we're going to see suicide rates go up.
Yeah.
And the thing is that all boils down to accountability of the people who are making this. Like, look at even back in the day, and I know this is going to be controversial, but school shootings were blamed on video games and music that you listen to.
Oh yeah.
Now
No, I
they're
remember
blamed
that.
on firearms and this and that and the other. People look for a scapegoat. It's the same thing with mental health. They look to blow it off on something else because they're not held accountable.
It's easier
that's
than looking at core dynamics. You have to actually dig and care and give a shit to
Well,
look at core
and you
dynamics.
actually have to get to know people. You actually have to have conversation. There's a
And
whole
it's
lot more
not-
involved.
Profitable.
Right. And it's definitely not profitable.
Derek, I've got a pressing question for you. That
Uh-huh.
because you mentioned, and because you've mentioned this publicly, I feel comfortable asking this question. You mentioned that you've been to the brink of suicide, and we're interrupted in that, and we're taught kind of afterwards how worthy, that you were actually worthwhile. What would you say? I'm putting you on the spot here with this. What would you say to anybody who is feeling that suicidal ideation, who's been having thoughts of worthlessness and what if I just end it all? What would you say to them?
I would tell them, and this is going to be a hard lesson to swallow. I would tell them, because every bit of suicide is directed at somebody else's effect on your life. It was my ex-wife that made me feel so worthless. It's this person or that person that makes you feel that way. It's the bullying. Who the fuck are they? Like, why do they matter that much? If they're this, and this is me being blunt, piece of shit person who's just telling you this, that, and the other because they don't like themselves, or they're getting beat at home, or their dad don't treat them the right way, or they don't have one, or what the fuck ever the case is. That's their fucking problem.
Oh, listen.
You have your life to live. They're going to live theirs. They're going to treat people bad. They're going to end up in a shitty spot because that's the kind of person
you're dead
that
right.
they are.
The problem is getting that to translate. Right.
Well, that's the thing.
Right.
Is the person that you are, they have their life to live. Why let them lead yours in their way? If you are affected that much by somebody else's thing, why are you going to let them lead you down that path?
But you know
Why
as
are you
well
going
as
to
I
follow
do.
somebody who hurts you so much?
But you know
And I
as
know
well
it's
as I
hard
do,
to
there's a
do.
conditioning element that's involved in that, and we get conditioned
Oh,
to
yeah.
that.
That's
So,
the tough part to cut through. But
What-
you're right.
What
It is core.
translated it for you then? What made you come to that realization?
Literally, it took the point of me realizing that I was worth it, and my fucking attitude of literally no fucks given. Like, I used to care so much about what other people thought, so much to try to be friends with other people, so much to try to get others to like me. Why?
Yeah, it's tough.
If I have to try to get somebody to like me, they're not fucking worth it. And I literally it just clicked to the point that it was, why am I doing this? I'm spending
Once it
so
translates,
much of my life.
once you learn it,
I was gonna
then you
end
get
it.
it. Yeah. It's
And
the
I
hard
looked
part,
at all
right?
the people that would be hurt, because all these people that actually care about me made me realize that if I'm this fucking good of a person, that all these people are literally running in and taking time to let me know that they're with me, they're by my side, they're here to help. Why? And they didn't have to.
Well, it is
The people that
it's the
had
core
to
dynamic of
weren't
strength
there.
in numbers, and that's what we
Well,
need.
it's not even that, man. It boils down to the fact of, if people that don't have to take a time out of their life to tell you that you're a great person, and they still do, when you have people that should be doing that every day, that makes you really realize something. And it got me to the point, because I went through hell. Like, I was left in a house filled with trash up to the doorknob, that I had to live in a bed like that for years. And I was left in the tub for like 8 hours at a time. Like, I was horribly treated. It took me years to realize I was even a victim. I thought I was just a burden on people.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Amy makes a
And-
great point. You can't see this right now, but she commented, Very similar
And-
dynamic. She says some are afraid to reach out for help because of the abusive history of the mental health field, just throwing people in facilities for unneeded reasons. That, the system is not perfect. Hopefully, we'd like to say in some ways maybe it's getting better, but I think it's also reflective of the people. And that's where we're seeing a little bit of a tough dynamic, because there isn't a lot of incentive for people to do this kind of work. We don't take care of the people who do this kind of work. They aren't paid appropriately. Again, I hate to say it, our priorities are out of whack. But we're going to take a break real quick. Derek, stay with us, because I'm going to read this story. It is called The Crazy Santeria Story. It was from one of our listeners that submitted it. And I'm basically going to read it verbatim, and then we'll kind of throw a little bit of context for anybody who wants to. We start off with this. She says, but before I tell you the story, you need a little backstory. Like any good, weird story, it starts with a cult in Puerto Rico.
Okay, that's an interesting story.
Now, our listener, and again, I'm reading it from his context. I grew up in a cult, not the type that some dude thinks he is Jesus having sex with all the women, or some dude hiding from the IRS, but a white-collar Mason-like cult. It's filled with what one would call intellectuals, teachers, lawyers, doctors, theorizing about all the questions, what, when, where, why, about the apocalypse. They were Christians, but they thought that the real knowledge of the end of times was hidden between stories and rituals of other religions. Well, in this particular cult, as a child of a member, we were encouraged to try other religions and seek hidden knowledge from others in the hopes of expanding the knowledge of the group. Well, I've always been super roguish and thought that maybe joining a Santeria's botanical would be cool, since over here in Puerto Rico, Santeria is looked down upon. Well, Santeros are a little paranoid and untrusting over here, unlike places like the Dominican Republic or other Spanish-speaking countries where it is done in the open, and he had to climb through a lot of hoops before they would trust me, if you know what I mean. Well, eventually I got to see some of their practices and rituals. Well, there's this one ritual they perform where everyone has to wear all white, and some lady dressed with literally only flowers on her body. I thought it was going to be like most things where they dress weird, have a loud Spanish party drinking, and playing dominoes. But no, I was wrong. Very wrong. I made the mistake of telling them about my mom's cult and why I was there instead of keeping my mouth quiet. Well, this lady, the one dressed in all flowers, told me to read from some book and agree to a cleansing. While I was 17 and reading a weird Santeria book wasn't something I would do, but like any clueless teenager, I agreed to the ceremony without thinking. Now, this is where things get crazy. So finish your cigarette and your drink and get another one, because what happens next gets crazy real quick. This old African descent lady, let's call her Miambi, weighing about 300 to 320 pounds with long tits, dressed all in flowers, glued to her body, starts the ceremony by standing in the middle of her living room with a lit white candle in one hand under a white ceramic plate in her other hand, chanting in a made-up language. She throws the plate on the floor, breaking it. She then puts an old wooden chair in the room, sitting me in it. Everyone starts chanting while Maebi brings from the bathroom a bucket filled with water, vinegar, and different flowers, and an old white rag. While all this was happening, they were boiling some tea in the kitchen. Maebi dips the rag on the bucket, sprinkling water all around, while everyone is chanting folk songs, and once the chanting is over, Maebi walks over to the kitchen and brings me a big cup filled with tea. Well, I thought it was tea, and it was not the type you would think. It was the bark and root of a plant that only grows in Colombia and certain parts of Africa called iboga. I think it's very much like the ayahuasca, but African. Yeah. Handing me the cup, Miami says, "You are ready to talk and walk with your ancestors." Me being clueless was like, "Hey, yeah." Thinking, we're going to drink some weed tea and have a party still. Her husband dresses like a martiro, Santeria's dead talkers, brought a live chicken to me while I was chugging the tea. Once all this is done, Miami starts a prayer that lasts maybe 20 to 30 minutes while her husband breaks the chicken's neck and plucks all of its feathers off. Then they take me to the bathroom where the shower tub is halfway full of the same water in the bucket. They tell me to get naked and into the tub. At this point, I'm all creeped out, but it's too late to turn back now, so I just go with it because I don't want to be rude. Once I'm in the tub, the tea is starting to kick in like a professional South American professional soccer player at the finals. Maybe prays over me while showering me with the old rag. They then take me out of the tub, putting white bathrobes on me, bringing me to the living room while her husband has cut the head off the chicken, draining its blood in a bucket. He starts spreading the blood over parts of my body and head. The people there start singing while I'm tripping all the balls, when all of a sudden I start seeing people who are not really there. The room is barely lit, and I start to see the room turn into what I can only describe as kaleidoscope glasses. They clean the blood off me with the bucket water, then people there start celebrating and clapping for me. My Abby then takes my hand and brings me to the back of the house where it's all woods. We start walking through the woods while I'm seeing people naked in the forest and weird animals. We walk until we reach an old shed with an old man smoking a cigar. This old guy is sitting on a log just chilling there. The shed only has a hammock. She tells me to answer any question I'm asked and just left me there high on psychedelics and half naked with no idea where the fuck I am. So I'm just chilling there with this old dude talking about life, the universe, and everything. After what felt like hours talking with him, he brings me inside the shed and told me to lay there and think about what we talked about. Once I'm on the hammock, I go into a psychedelic rocket trip across the universe where eventually I pass out without realizing. I wake up the next day to the sounds of roosters, feeling like $1,000,000. I walk over to the house, which was like 20 to 30 yards from the shed. There, the couple were making breakfast and let me in the house. I asked all the what the fuck questions I had, and they told me about the iboga and what it does. Then I asked about the naked people and the old man, where they told me they were not people but ancestor spirits, and that I had crossed over to the spirit realm. They pampered me a little, gave me breakfast and some cash. I chilled with them for a little bit, got in my car, and left, never to see them again. So, yeah, that is a crazy Santeria story.
That actually sounds like a shit ton of fun.
Listen, again.
I mean, a traditional cleansing has blood in it.
If you're not expecting psychedelics, not unlike, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition, but if you're not expecting psychedelics, I have to say that's the one element that I can't get behind. You know what I mean? Because that is such a dangerous.
Well, for a ceremony of that nature, somebody should be prepared for it mentally, spiritually, and emotionally.
But I know the dynamic of what he's talking about. The first,
kind of like a DMT or an ayahuasca.
It's similar. When I went into Arizona, I did a similar Native American ritual, however, using peyote. And I tripped for over 2 days straight. I was fucking out in the desert like a fucking madman. And I understand the disconnect and element. Now, granted, I had people around me that not only had explained what it was I was doing, why I was doing it, etc. I went in there at least believing a mindset that I knew this shit was going to go sideways. I wanted it to go sideways. I was seeking that dynamic experience. But, our history, our cultures, our lore is just riddled with so many examples of, again, dynamics of astral projection, being able to communicate with spirits and our ancestors. And there's many different variations on the rituals, but, one of them that repeats time and time and time again is the use of psychedelics, hallucinogenic elements. What are your thoughts, my brother Derek?
Well,
yeah, I know. Throw you under the bus. Hey, drop a couple tabs.
no, I got a positive and a negative with it. Yes, psychedelics can be used greatly with it. However, if you actually take certain serotonin boosting medications, you will have it'll actually stop their effect and worsen things.
Oh yeah. You definitely. It's not something to just go casually play around with. You know what I mean? A lot of people think, let's just drop some acid and go to a show. Yeah, no, not the best of ideas. You know what I mean? Because again, they're different dynamics because we're talking about a chemical reaction, pure and simple. So depending on what other chemicals you may or may not have in the mix is going to greatly change it. And let's really be honest, unless you're doing something natural, like mushrooms per se. But even
mushrooms roll, I actually had a bad effect on.
You had a bad effect, right? Because again, it's still the psilocybin, right?
Yeah, specifically those go against any kind of serotonin booster, because like your brain works like same way as diabetes. You either have type 1 or type 2, which is you don't have enough serotonin, in which you have to have it replaced, or you have plenty of serotonin and your body's not absorbing it. And with like mushrooms and pretty much any psychedelic, they take over those same receptors. So it lessens the effectiveness and the amount of serotonin you're able to absorb, which is great if you don't have serotonin and you're not taking those meds. But if you are, it'll actually shut them down and you'll require something more.
I think that something that you mentioned earlier is that before taking anything, of any kind, you talked about, Derek, that you did the research between, I'm guessing, the different pharmaceuticals that are out there versus the natural green stuff, so on and so forth. You did all your research. I think that's
and it's
important
doing
context.
credible research. Don't go to like WebMD. Go to medical journals and like Mayo clinics and stuff like that online. Like go to the actual good sources.
Yeah, and there's some good research that they've been doing, with microdosing and using very controlled small doses, to combat, certain dynamics. It just really, again, I think just shows, we're still just scratching the surface on a lot of the dynamics that really has to do with how the human mind works. And in that dynamic, that's where our emotions are translated. That's where they translate into actions. You know what I mean? Be it depression, be it anger, be it lust, be whatever the dynamic. They all interconnect. One is really contingent upon the other.
Yeah, and I agree that like you could honestly, with the right microdosing and the research that's out there, I think that there is a way to help control all this stuff through that. However, like there's not enough actual research out there, and like honestly, is it cheaper to get a $5 prescription for a month or 90 days versus $40 a time or whatever,
Yeah, what I mean? Well, I mean, again, we would need several podcasts to really even begin to dent the nightmare that is our pharmaceutical industries and how it ties into our healthcare.
There is one thing that Derek mentioned that I thought might be worth addressing, which is that being your own advocate.
Well, that's hard sometimes. I agree with it. And, I will be the first to say, and Derek, I think you will agree with me, you went into this having a good swath of experience, a good swath of knowledge. And, some degrees we have to be blunt. You're not just running a generic IQ, my brother. So, to some degrees, dynamics, they matter, especially when you're trying to combat aspects of trauma or long-term conditioning or, in some cases, fucking pure outright stupidity. A lot of times people just don't know better. It's not that their motives are bad, but if all they know is chocolate, how do you explain vanilla? You can't. It's literally something that sometimes your earlier analogy, has to be force-fed. It has to be tough love.
And early on, I actually had, because of like the PTSD outbursts and stuff like that, and a lot of the dealings with what's called CPTSD. You have to really, like, I had to actually entrust somebody because I didn't know if the level of anger and the response I would have to other people's actions was legitimately, like, I would have to have somebody literally be my moral compass of whether or not
your translator
appropriately getting anger. Yeah.
That's great. Strength in numbers.
Somebody that I could look at and be like, this person has a good understanding of what's like a good opposite of what I am. So they could gauge me in the middle.
Smart. Very smart.
And I had to do that for a couple of years. And that's the thing, is like until you can control it, sometimes you need those, for lack of a better word, training wheels. Like,
no, it's a great analogy. And there's nothing wrong with those training wheels, especially knowing the damage that's done when you fall down and, fuck yourself up in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, definitely very, very, very good point. one of the analogies that I always come back to, in this dynamic is, and it was something that E.R. Amy had mentioned, is fear. People are afraid to vocalize dynamics. They're afraid to talk about it. They're so used to being dismissed, or worse, being made fun of, being told they're less than, or, oh, you shouldn't feel that way. That, again, I think this is another reflection of, that long-term conditioning, that fear now becomes all-encompassing, and especially for young empaths, all they know is the emotional variable, especially if you're dealing in a dynamic of trauma, being bullied or being sexually victimized. How do you shift out in that dynamic? And I think that's where it becomes so important. Even in the simple analogy of what we're doing now, we have to talk about it. We have to say, hey, listen, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. This is not right. You're not fucked up. You're not wrong. And at least make the effort. Granted, I don't have any real solutions. I try and help the people like you do who come into your orbit, just as Shiya does, and a lot of us do. But I think the overall dynamic is, again, especially the context of that perspective. We have to talk about it, even if it's ugly, even if it is dark.
Derek, what would you say to the people who are out there who are afraid to get a handle or ask for help or deal with the context of their own mental health issues?
And the thing is being afraid to ask for help and being scared of the way that people look at you or anything like that. A lot of that comes back to what I said with the who cares about other people. But to get into that, sometimes you need the training wheels. Like, talk to a variety of people. Talk to a counselor. Talk to somebody who's meant to care. Understand that, like, you may not fit. Like, you will know when you're with the right, like, therapist or counselor, because it's somebody who's going to make you feel comfortable being there real early on.
And that's where the trust is built.
Yeah.
It took me 2.5 years to find the right therapist.
So what I'm hearing from you is don't quit.
Patience. Yeah, I was just going to say
don't quit,
that.
and don't settle either. That's the important
Smart.
part.
That's good.
You
yeah,
can
no,
get
no.
another therapist. Like I said, it took me 2.5 years. I went through like 18 different therapists. So I found somebody who fit with me. And when they did, it just, everything opened up so much easier.
But I also know you embrace what some would say unorthodox dynamics, as I do, as Shiya does, and that we don't always have to look for it in the scope of what they say we're supposed to be looking at. You can find support. You can find fellowship, connection in so many different ways, in so many different places. We just, again, sometimes, again, we're conditioned or we feel that there aren't any options. One of the things for me that worked initially when I was struggling was doing volunteer work, just literally fucking distracting myself, as you had made, analogy earlier. You just get it out of your head. So I started doing stuff for other people. Now, granted, you did 14 plus years. I did 1 year of that, and my first experience with casualties from a house fire, I couldn't get the smell out of my head, and it literally destroyed me. It took me years to be able to actually get the imagery and the smell out of it, because it just was so traumatic for me as an empath. You know what I mean? And I have a lot of respect for people who are able to do it, but those analogies, those experiences, you know what I mean? You can find them in support groups. You could, again, play a D&D game every week to, again, distract yourself, to laugh, to enjoy, to not be in the same place, in the same dynamic, or worse, spinning in the darkness.
And I think in some ways that brings us full circle to where there's just not enough mental health support for our caregivers and for the students that are out there. It's funny because we talk about mental health more now than we ever have at any point in history. There's less stigma on it now than there has been in any point in history that I am aware of. But
it's still got a long way to go.
But yet we still have climbing suicidal ideation, suicide rates,
Yeah.
bullying. How
You
do
know
we
what
deal
one
with
of the
this?
You know what one of the craziest things is?
Hmm.
Look at somebody you care about. Look at somebody that you truly care about. Like I know, like you guys look at each other right now, and something that you accept being done to you, would you accept being done to them?
Well, I mean that's
Yes,
the
hell
truth.
no.
That's the truest representation of real empathy. Is that the person shouldn't matter. It's the context.
But well, I mean, exactly. Is if somebody you care about, you wouldn't want them to see done something like that done to them, then even if you don't have that self-worth yet, think about what they would feel if they seen it done to you.
That is
So get out
excellent
there
point.
and get beyond things.
Well, it's a
And-
great translation of the whole, looking at it through somebody else's eyes,
Mhm.
changing
Yeah.
the
And
perspective.
until you literally get to like, I mean, even with like me and Jamie, when we got together first, like she had a real low self-worth value, and the fact that like it didn't matter.
Oh,
what
I
people
remember
say or
her
do
from
to
back
her.
then. I definitely,
Yeah.
you two have really helped each other, and y'all have come so far. It's amazing. Jamie's not even the same person I once knew. She has come.
Well, I mean, again, it
million
goes
miles.
back to the earlier dynamic that unfortunately, and this is just, thousands of years of conditioning within the male dynamic, the misogyny aspect of, that women are judged based on a dynamic of sexuality, an illusion, as I'd like to call it, because it really is an illusion. The narrative somehow that if a woman doesn't fit a particular, framework, that somehow she doesn't have sexuality, that she isn't passionate, that she doesn't have, any of these other dynamics is absolutely insane. But yet it still appears time and time and time and time again in so many different narratives. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate. You know what I mean? That anybody should have to be forced into, a mold that, let's be honest, again, isn't realistic, and it doesn't hold water when you frame it against our humanity, how time, we age, we get older, our teeth fall out, our tits sag, you know what I mean? Your dick doesn't work anymore. I'm not funny anymore. The 1,001 different things, but does that somehow translate to life being over? Or does that somehow, truly reflect the dynamic of who a person is? We have a friend who has to dance in that dance, and she had said something to me last summer that really stood out and is very profound. That she refuses to compromise certain dynamics within that she understands it for what it is, but she has made a cognitive choice, you know what I mean, to live based on what is right and important, not somebody else's translation of dynamic. And unfortunately, especially for a lot of single women who are parents, there are not always a whole lot of fucking options out there. So, we have to use the weaponized empathy sometimes to fucking survive, to be able to get from point A to point B, or, like what I had said earlier, sometimes to get somebody to not fucking drown. But the only way we can really do that is by understanding how these dynamics work. So I really appreciate you taking out the time to come on here. I really want to have you back out here again and continue some more of these conversations. Everybody, my brother Derek Smith, thank you again.
Thank you, Derek.
And we will get together soon. And like I said, I definitely think this is something that should be continued to be talked about, my brother.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me. And
no, listen,
everybody
thank you.
else, remember, we're only here, like, we're the only ones here. Love each other.
Yeah. Amen to that, my friend.
Amen.
All right, so yes, thank you.
Love to you and Jamie, always.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk to you soon. This is the part where we hang up on you and say, "All right, man, off you go." You can jump back to the other end of the chat if you want. You'll have a little bit of delay, but it shouldn't be long.
Okay, nice man.
All right.
What are the joys of doing a live show?
We love you guys.
Love you too, brother.
Bye bye.
Bye.
That was fun.
Yes,
I
it was.
enjoyed that.
It was a lot of fun. Dominique says that's something that my dad and many others have tried to get through to her. They said, how would you feel if my mom best friend were in my position? Would I be okay with that? And I always said no. And they would ask, then why is it okay to be done to me? And I still have no answer to that. I think that's a common dynamic that, again, a lot of high-functioning empaths struggle with. And again, it goes back to that almost, I've heard some people refer to this as the Messiah complex. I've heard different variations on the thing, but we tend to want to absorb other people's pain.
You say this all the time, that we empaths were great at helping other people.
Or just shitty at helping ourselves.
Exactly. So sometimes the only way that other people can get us empaths to doing shit for ourselves and self-care is to make us do what you say, which is to kind of step out and look at it from the outside. So that's what they're trying to do. And it becomes a context of we're doing the right things for us, not because we're caring about us, but because we don't want to see other people suffer because we're suffering. And you know what? Who the fuck cares? If that's your motivation, then go for it.
Lesser of two evils.
Exactly.
So I want to do something real quick, and then we'll come back and finish up and talk a little bit. One of the things, and I had posted this on my Old Wolf Music page, one of the incredible joys for me has always been the interactions I have with my son. It is the thing I am most proud of in my life, beyond the music, beyond everything, is being a father. And, some people may think that that's weird or any number of things, but
So it should be.
listen, I don't really give a fuck. My relationship with my son is mine, and I don't feel inclined to justify it. However, I don't mind talking about it. So one of the things that he's been doing for several years now, he's really honing and developing his skills, not only as a storyteller, but creating, I guess you could say, a community where people could come together and interact and share their stories and their experiences. It's a different approach to it, but I think it's just as valid. And it is based around, a dynamic of role playing. But the stories and the worlds that he creates are so deep and so interconnected with what I think is important, what I believe is the dynamic of real magic and getting to understand how we all function, be it, from a positive context or, again, in this case, sometimes the darkness, because that ultimately is how we learn, is how we grow. So one of the things that I had been working on the past couple of weeks with him was creating a framework for his theme song for this. So it is really my deepest exploration into creating electronic music.
Yeah, this is not normally your wheelhouse.
This is not a standard Old Wolf production music.
But you did damn good on it.
Now again, there's some guitar work for me on it, but it's mostly an electronic oriented type of track. It was designed specifically with him in the style that he wanted, because he takes a good part of his influence in how he tells story and how he develops characters from animes. And animes have really set a standard, especially within the younger generations now, of being reflective of the struggles, both dark and light, that people go through. And they're interwoven with magic, and sometimes, yes, they have fan service and titties and ass, but hey, listen, aren't titties and ass part of life? It's, again, how we choose to approach certain dynamics that really define it. So, again, I don't believe we should hide from it, but we should have honest conversations. So we created this track and stuff like that, and have now, again, set the stage for this project to go to its next level. And basically what this project is going to be is, some people who are comfortable in role-playing a character dynamic versus other people who are more comfortable playing a predefined character. But he's creating a show, a podcast, okay, that will be basically story-driven episodes with real people playing characters that are influenced either directly through their own elements or some pre-made characters. Okay. So I wanted to, and he wanted to, extend the opportunity for anybody out there, anybody listening, anybody who would like to take a look at this, find out more, and participate, get in on the ground floor. It's a free thing. It doesn't cost any money, but it's a really beautiful, great experience. We have been doing this now for years, and I mean literally years. Every weekend, one day, and it's usually been Saturdays, we get together as a family and we go on these adventures and we explore these worlds and these characters and these dynamics, and we interact and we laugh and we go through all these dynamics, and the shared experience is incredibly powerful. Okay, incredibly powerful. So this is going to be a world premiere Old Wolf music track, okay, for the upcoming Tales of the Indigo Monkey. Anybody who's interested, who would like to get in and be a part of this, can reach out to Shiya or myself, Wolf at Old Wolf Music, or LadyShiya.com, and we will put you in touch with the Indigo Monkey, and we will let him explain it. Again, doesn't cost any money. The only thing that you have to have is a desire to explore and have fun and be comfortable enough to the degree to do that with other people. It's very simple. It's very easy. And again, I'm not going to go into all the details right now, but people who have been our friends and our followers get the first opportunity before this actually goes to Kickstarter and becomes a global thing. Okay? So without further ado, going to premiere Tales from the Indigo Monkey, and then we'll be back.
I'll never stop.
So yeah, that was the premiere of Tales of the Indigo Monkey, a electronic.
It is definitely a
Dance.
departure from your regular, but it is really freaking cool.
Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I had fun with it. It definitely challenged me in some of the dynamics. I've never tried to do quite exactly this type of thing. The guitar stuff for me is easy. That's just second nature. But some of these other dynamics, especially when you're crossing into elements of different styles, require, different elements. So it was a good learning experience for me. I enjoyed it. Seeing the face on your kid who just like, wow, I've got a custom, theme song, from his old man for the project, was worth its weight in fucking gold. So I'm not going to lie. That dynamic alone, even if nobody likes the track, he does. You know what I mean? So,
well, that's
it's a win-win scenario for me.
Hold on. That is definitely a part of your magic, though. And when you have people who you're writing custom music for, you're not channeling necessarily the old wolf.
But
you're putting
listen, I'm a classic empath. I think everything I do is shit. So
yeah, but you're putting the old wolf spin on their feel and their intent. And I feel like you really captured that for the monkey. Because in listening to this and all the music the monkey shows, hey, listen to this is awesome. That fits his style big time.
Woman, how many times have I told you not to butter my biscuit when we're live on air?
I'm not buttering your biscuit. Facts.
Your God is not here now.
Simple facts. You know how to channel other people's passion into music. So when somebody needs a custom track, they come to you and you will channel their passion into their music.
There's no room for your light in my darkness.
But I am both dark and light.
No.
I'm rainbow. I'm psychedelic, bitch. Where's that? Put that first trip thing back up.
No.
Put that. Come on.
I refuse.
I'm a trip all on my own.
I shall deny you.
All on my own.
Denied.
I am.
Yes, this is the fun of doing a live show again. Just weird shit happens. So listen, again.
That's what I do.
Amy made a statement before, and I wanted to vocalize this because I think it is a relevant dynamic. I don't share it in the same degree, but again, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. And she had made an earlier statement. My parents always made us feel special on this holiday, so I view it as a day to express all kinds of love, romantic if you have it, friendship and family. On a marketing point, just love the cuteness. You know what? I get that. I can respect it. My problem, to be very blunt and open about it, is that so many people hurt because of this artificial construct. They feel that they're less than because they don't have this, because so much of it is, unfortunately, reflective of bullshit. Now, again, that's not to say that your dynamic or anybody's dynamic, when it's honest like that, isn't valid, because it is. And that is the paradox sometimes, is that it doesn't always translate the same way. I tend to lean with my sister Shiya and her statement, quite simply, fuck Valentine's Day, bring on second Halloween.
I'm good with that. I grew up with that same context of Valentine's Day is just a day to express love and care. I had a great time with Valentine's Day. I don't have any personal.
Listen, I have a bad childhood memory from Valentine's Day. I'll be the first one to admit it. And I actually haven't thought about it up until this point in God knows how many years. So thank you very fuck you much.
I was saying I don't have one.
I know, and it just made me remember that I do have one.
Oh, well, that sucks to be you.
This is what happens when you get forced to deal with your traumas on live air. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, here it is. You know what? And listen, in fairness, here is the simple dynamic. When I was, I think, probably 9 or 10 years old, and for whatever reason, my mother didn't have money, or it just didn't play out that I could go out and buy Valentine's Day cards, like what was done
in the
kids in the school and stuff. So I didn't have any. And there was a girl particularly that I was sweet on, that I really just, I was compelled. I had to do something. I had to express that dynamic. So I made a homemade one. And I didn't really do a good job because I'm not artistically inclined. I probably would have done better if I had tried to play a song for her, but I wasn't at that point yet. So I made her a shitty attempt at a homemade Valentine, and I got laughed at and belittled and made fun of. And it hurt. It hurt in a way that I never looked at Valentine's Day the same way. It hurt in a way that I definitely can see that being one of the triggers that started to shift me from people of my own age and trying to seek out comfort in others. So, again,
well, it's kind of this
the details matter.
It's kind of this forced state, like you have to declare your love.
Well,
if you love somebody,
again, and if you've had a shitty experience with that, now the well is tainted.
Oh.
You know what I mean? And it is. It's just an unfortunate reality. Now, again, I don't begrudge that dynamic. Again, I really don't begrudge it to people who truly, enjoy it. But again, I would be remiss if I didn't vocalize the dynamic, because so many people, and I see it every goddamn year, you know what I mean, are just, they feel less than, they feel shitty, they feel unloved, and, I don't think that should be. And I'm sorry, but, if
I agree.
If it would make all those people go away, I would make this fucking holiday disappear in a heartbeat. Absolutely. I'm sorry, because if you love, and my opinion, again, if you love the people around you, you shouldn't need a special day for that.
No,
you really shouldn't.
What my favorite romantic gesture from you is? I wake up every day and somehow coffee magically appears next to me at some point during the morning.
Right.
That is an everyday, you do this every day, and my God, that is one of the most beautiful, deeply romantic things that just warms my heart every fucking day, and I don't need a particular day of the year to say.
But Derek is right, and, and he says this, agree. If everyone could keep that kind of thought as well, that silver lining, that depression and a lot of mental health wouldn't have the impact it does. We all tend to look at things from our own perspective. We are, again, designed that way. It takes effort. It does. It takes energy. It takes focus to shift out of our own dynamic, how we feel about this, and say, okay, I'm not going to factor how I feel. I'm going to factor how someone else feels. Now, again, not to sound hokey, but I consider that a really pure expression of humility, a pure expression of empathy. Now, granted, we can't always do that in every case and context, but as Derek said, if we could do more of that, we would probably make shit a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really about, realizing.
Listen, they're different dynamics. Said,
feeling like we're worth something to somebody. And here's the thing. You're worth something. You're worth a lot more than you realize it. You may not realize just how much you're worth to certain people around you. But, like Derek said, sometimes you have a chance to find that out. Other times, it takes a tragedy to find out all the people that will come out of the woodwork to be there for you.
Or sometimes we just need to be, like in this moment, hey, everybody here, everybody that's participated, everybody that will participate, I love to some degree or another.
Yes.
Now, granted, again, no pun intended, not going to love you the same way that I love Shiya. Because Shiya wouldn't go for that.
No, Shiya will claw your eyes out.
But if you want to make those arrangements with Shiya, please feel free to try. But again, all joking aside, it's different for each one of us, which is why it's so important. Again, it's part of my philosophy of strength in numbers that we have to communicate, we have to vocalize things, we have to share these things so we have other perspectives, other insight to really give a better view of the bigger picture. And again, it's not always perfect, you know what I mean? Sometimes, and this is really, again, sometimes the dynamic of the lesser evil, we have to do things to compensate. Yeah. You know what I mean? Amy says, her last marriage was shitty for all the holidays. You know what I mean? And listen, I've had those kind of years. I get that. You know, Dominique says when she was in the 8th grade, her band director and her husband didn't celebrate every year. They did it once, like every 4 years or something. And, you know, she thought it was interesting. You know, there are many variations on the theme. You know what I mean? I know guys that literally live in fear of this fucking holiday because if they fuck it up, that's their ass. And I also know people who have literally been in deep, dark depression for the week before and the week after because they don't feel that they're lovable and that nobody is going to love them or understand them for who they are. And here is this shitty holiday to remind them that they're fucking alone.
Well, whoever needs to hear this, I fucking love you.
Yes, we all love you. And somebody else loves you too.
Yeah. The monkey loves you.
Yes, the indigo monkey. We were just talking about you and the whole, we played your theme song and talking about the whole new, you know, role play podcast project thing that's in development. So we'll see if anybody, I'm going to keep promoting it and stuff. And, you know, we're going to get you some test subjects to experiment on and create.
Oh, so you've been honest about it.
I've been honest about it. Yes, I have. Fancy that.
Oh my gosh, we were watching an anime together earlier, and there was this one moment where all the bad guys started doing their evil laugh. And the next thing comes up. Both of these guys start, and I'm just like sitting here like, oh my god, help me.
I've practiced my evil laugh so much, it's kind of my default laugh sometimes.
Listen, defense against the dark arts. You have to understand the dark to be able to fucking defend against it. Derek, listen. Derek says he could be game. Derek, you definitely could definitely play in this particular pool, my friend. So we'll definitely talk about that. Again, when we explore these things, and I mentioned this earlier, you know, we've done this as a family now for years. It allows you all kinds of these new dynamics you really can't experience. And when I talk about role playing, I'm not talking about Daddy spank me. Though if that's your thing on role play, that's not in the monkey's world. Okay, that and you're not allowed to fuck the dragon. Those are the two things. You know, there'll be no fan service and no fucking of the dragons.
Trust me, if you try to fuck the dragon will fuck you.
But you know, if you're a dwarf and you get drunk and you walk outside naked to get attacked by a bunch of goblins and you accidentally, your explosive diarrhea sets them all on fire, that's a thing.
Exactly. You can throw shit at goblins.
Right. Sometimes.
I don't even like it.
Listen, we're only limited by our imagination. Now, you know, again.
And the rules just a little bit.
In the serious element, it allows you to step outside of the normal constraints. Like, one of the things, and I've run game servers and I've designed game elements in years past. I don't do it as much anymore, though I do some elements of DMing and the role-playing here in the house and stuff. But long story short, the hardest thing in the world to play is an evil character. Because most people are just, they don't understand evil. They're just like, I will kill you. I'm evil. No, that's not how real evil works.
I mean, that's chaotic evil.
Well, it's chaotic evil, but it's boring evil. You know what I mean? It's
chaotic evils have a reason for killing somebody, though.
See, I find chaotic evil to be boring. It's very much along the lines of murder hobo. However, lawful evil, now, ooh, that's spicy.
Yes, we just sneak a little bit. We just lay up next to you and we cuddle you and just start to slowly let the corruption seep in.
Like, I'll give you all a good example of a lawful evil character you may all even like. You know, you could have a sheriff/gunslinger figure who is so adherent to the letter of law and so, you know, profoundly interested in executing said prisoners instead of letting them live, and that is a lawful evil character that society will abide by.
Mm-hmm. Or as Derek says, true neutral is actually way more dangerous than any evil, because evil implies a dynamic of a context of an emotional variable. True neutral simply doesn't give a fuck.
You're not allowed to play true neutral at my table. I'm sorry.
True neutral is just,
kind of fits true neutral, though.
No, she doesn't.
She's like good and like hopeful and stuff, but then she'll burn down an entire area.
Oh my fucking god. She is a maniacal
You've gone
fucking child with a god complex.
Yeah.
You've
Yes.
gone back and forth between evil and good. However,
With
you've always been
way
lawful.
too much of a
Always
taste for
adhered
blood.
to your own form
My own
creed,
form of
your own
law. Yes,
ethics.
that's true.
So you are, by my standards, lawful neutral. You do good and you
Okay.
do evil.
Yeah, but my evil actually I have damn good reason for it.
Yeah,
Welcome to the dark side. We have
So
cookies.
I'll keep writing
they're
the
all-
notes on lawful evil.
Yeah,
Check.
you
Lawful
can.
evil. Check. Lawful evil. Check.
Check. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is the type of shit that goes on in our
Welcome
household.
to our family.
Right, these are the types of conversations you have.
You've
But
had a family
You've somehow
discussion with
found
us
the
now.
infinite loop for
We
plugging
summoned
your
the
life.
indigo monkey. But this is real magic. You know, again,
This is our magic.
Not
This
to
is
be
shit we do
redundant.
all the time. It's great.
storytelling, and that's why I use some of the imagery in the video for that track. Stories are powerful. They allow us to see things from different perspectives, to experience things in different realities even, and it gives us a deeper understanding of the dynamics that drive us to act, as Derek was talking about earlier. You know, sometimes it's the simple trick of separating what's going on in our head before it actually becomes fucking action. Okay? And it really is sometimes just the lesser of the two evils. It's not perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. Unless you're me, of course. But that's neither here nor there. But evil is often misunderstood.
Here's my evil
I've seen more horrendous acts from people under the supposed banner of good.
No,
Let me kill you in the name of my God.
I'm not
Father
gonna lie.
Flanagan says, come over here and sit on my lap.
I'm not gonna lie, your witch cackle when you get really happy is actually scarier.
Terrifying, terrifying. But if we don't explore these dynamics, then they have control over us. There is the simpler analogy. If we want to survive, if we want something more than the darkness within, I had to just use that to kind of close out the show, you know, full circle type of thing, use the title in the end. Hey, that's, you know, production
Hey,
value.
we got it all tied in.
But again, if we want to be more than just the darkness within, we have to understand it. We have to talk about it. We have to explore it. It doesn't mean, you know, using, you know, the earlier Santeria story, that we're all going to run around naked with chicken feathers glued to our fucking ass cracks.
That sounds like
Okay?
that's
And listen, you might want to do that, but that's not my idea of a good time. I'm
my
just
idea of a
saying.
good time is dancing naked in the forest under a tree.
I get that. You're a witch. That's what witches do. I'm a wolf. All right. You see, here's the analogy. In any other situation, yeah, that's fine. Come into my forest and dance around naked. I don't have to chew through your clothes to get to the juicy, fleshy part that I really want to get to.
There you go.
Your forest.
Well, the monkey's like,
It's his island.
hey,
It's his
child.
island.
parent. I'm just saying.
Don't make me fling poo.
Oh,
You have any poo, fling it now. So yeah, listen, it's been really a great night. Derek, my brother,
Yes.
thank you again for coming out. Lee, thank you for being patient with us. We'll get you on here one of these days as well. I already know you're
so
scared
powerful.
shitless to do it, but we'll drag you out kicking and screaming, and you and Shiya can run around the podcast naked.
Woo!
Yes, fun
How
times
that
indeed.
really works.
So I'm gonna close this out with my last little, I guess you could say, meme for the day. I thought my buddy Chuck shared this, so I had to snatch it. And if you're watching, brother, this one's for you. But this is how I see it. You know, again, for those of you who can't see it, that this is, you know, one of your classic marshmallow type of treat, heart-shaped yummies. And you have the top section, and it looks all delicious. But here's the note to self. Don't warm them in the microwave. And for those of you who can't see what this little fucking heart looks like after it's microwaved,
Oh,
it
my
looks like a
God.
big fat ass just squirting out a
Boo.
big fucking...
See,
Bleh.
depending on your point of view, that's an improvement.
Well, I didn't say that. Okay? Listen, the thoughts and expressions expressed by the monkey are the monkeys alone, and the monkeys alone and alone and alone. And it's always just him alone.
I blame you.
Well, you know, apple tree.
That's the type of thing, instead of throwing poo, I could throw that at you.
Oh, yeah,
There you
no,
go.
that's like fucking microwaving peeps. Don't
Oh, that's
do it.
so much fun.
That's
I've done it
horrible.
before.
Horrible, horrible, horrible.
I have
Fucking,
done it several times.
Have you ran it until it shrinks back down, turns black, and catches fire.
Yeah.
I normally
Well, you haven't played the
That's why
game
we
like
don't
we
do that
have.
no more.
Yeah, that's why we
I
don't.
would do it with kids and make it big and puffy, and then we take it out, and then we pop them and watch them make weird art patterns on the plate.
No,
Okay, no,
no.
see, that's not too bad. When I was a child, I left it running.
No. I'm just gonna sing the no song. No.
Can't go back. To the
Anyway,
past,
listen. Said it before, gonna say it again. Strengthen numbers. Love
Yes.
each other the best way that you can. Okay? Try if you can. You know, sometimes it's a simple dynamic of just saying, hey, listen, you're not alone. You know, one of the things that, I had to find out, because I am not the most adept social media user, having to switch between my personal account and the Old Wolf account. The Old Wolf account, I can't comment because it's considered an entity. So I see these posts from people and stuff like that, and I just, I wonder, and I can't. But if I open the floodgates and everybody comes into my personal profile, I have nowhere to run and hide. Because, again, great at helping other people, just really shitty.
That's why I gave up on the idea of having a personal profile. I have a personal profile.
Yeah,
but
well, that's why you're my
open to
manager
everybody.
and I'm not. So we're going to close it out tonight with, again, the theme, The Darkness Within, one of the first tracks that we have put out there and released when my brother Matt Brown on vocals and Monkey on this one with me as well, too. This one is Demons. And yes, it's a little bit darker, but hey, sometimes life is dark. Again, know that you are loved, love each other. Until next time, peace out.
demons in my head. Speak to me as if I'm dead. Singing all the things that never should be said. You see, it's not just inside my head. The demons in me until I'm dead. The demons in me until I'm dead. The demons in me until I'm dead. The demons in me until I'm dead.
See, the show was actually done, Chanel, but since you actually showed up here in the last moment, we were compelled to turn it back in. It's like, hello there, Goblin Queen.
Oh,
We
hail
miss
the
you.
Goblin
We have
Queen."
not seen you in so long. So we couldn't ignore the fact, even though, again, the show was done, re-emphasize, you made us come back on live, Chanel.
Okay, nice.
What kind of
lady.
witchcraft is that shit, girl? What are you trying to do here? Are you casting spells again? What's going on?
Okay, nice lady. I love you. Bye-bye.
So yes, the Goblin Queen arrives at the end of the show. But listen, thank you for stopping by. It's good to see you. I hope everything is good on your end of the world. You're in a different time zone, so of course, you're just coming on. You're just like, oh, wow, No, fuck you. No happy Valentine's Day. You take that back. Take that back.
Take it back.
Take it back. We will not endorse this corporate monstrosity. Okay. But listen, I hope you're having a good weaponized empathy day.
Happy Weaponized Empathy Day.
That's what we're calling it now.
Yes.
Listen, too many people get fucked up in this dynamic. They feel that they're not loved and they're less than because they don't have these dynamics or they don't have money to express these bullshit dynamics.
I love you.
Yes, you should know me by now that this is how I roll.
Need no stupid fucking day.
We should love each other regardless.
Yes.
By the way, I love you.
Okay, nice lady. I love you.
Not in that kind of weird way.
Bye-bye.
Well, maybe in that kind of weird way. I don't know. Are you on OnlyFans yet? Can I finally go check you out, or am I going to have to wait for that? I'm just curious,
Your sister got you roses.
Just asking. I'm not asking for me. I'm asking for somebody else.
Just remember, before OnlyFans, there's always feetfinder.com.
Okay, we'll see. There's that too. And then of course Chanel's like, okay, bye-bye.
You
You're like, run away, run away, run away.
With feetfinder.com.
See, that was easy. Like, okay, all we have to do is frame Chanel's sexuality publicly, and she flees.
We like to
Run away, brave Robin, run away.
We like
Please. But see, listen, we can only make
I
that.
actually despise.
See, but here's the beautiful thing, and in case nobody's told you this, and I'll be the guy to do it. I'm gonna step up and take one for the team. Okay.
Please don't.
Okay. The only reason we can do this is because you actually have sexuality to offer.
Please don't.
Okay, so take stock in that. You know what I mean? For whatever this is worth.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Bella's queen of the sultry look. She sent me a picture of her with her roses.
Now again, I don't want to. I don't want to like piss off your husband, but like if he wants to do one-on-one combat, that's cool. You know what I mean? Now, of course, I'm going to send the monkey in to fight for me because that's guaranteed victory for me. I'm not stupid enough to have to do that shit. That's why I got a fucking indigo monkey.
Yeah, you see monkey
But
running around with a
just in case nobody has told you today that, yes, you are loved. We miss you, truly. Tell the goblins we miss them, too. Love them as well, all joking aside.
The Gobliano family sends their regards.
The goblin... See, you're a friend of ours, so you got that inside track, you know what I mean? You just got to remember, make sure you kiss the ring, okay? Yeah, good. It's Gucci.
Leave the roses, take the cannoli.
Leave the roses, take the cannoli. Sure, yeah, And this is what happens in a live show. We just go impromptu, you know what I mean?
Weird humor.
You know, Chanel shows up and everything goes, whoop.
So, okay, I'm out. Bye-bye.
Yeah. But she almost scraped the kids and I off the back of the car and gave stickers with my car today.
Oh my God.
I'm sure there's an interesting story for that you will share at some point in time. It sounds like, I mean, again, if I'm just picking up your vibe, that, you know, things are going good for you guys. So we're really glad to hear that. And hopefully...
She did move to a whole nother country.
No, California is not a whole other country.
Sure it is. It's got its like own culture. And just ask any Californian, and they'll tell you that they
This is coming from the fucking witch from Texas. Like,
Oh.
why would I even begin
Well, Texas already knows
to
we're another
subscribe to
country.
such fuckery?
Texas already knows we're a whole other country.
This whole
Stars at
fucking...
night are big and bright
See, this is my
in our
life.
country of Texas.
She says, call her. I'm about to eat gummies and burn boxes. Shiya will catch up with you because, yeah, we're going to close it down. Seriously, though, it's really great to see you. Know that you're loved. Let me know when you go on OnlyFans finally. I'll be your first subscriber.
Shiya must have food.
Shiya must have food, so I'm
making us
monkey's
nachos.
making Beavis and Butthead nachos. He said OnlyFans. Yes, I'm an asshole. Yes, we miss you too, truly. I just couldn't help it. We see you so rarely now that
We love you,
I just couldn't. It was
Chanel.
like a slow curveball over the plate. I had to hit that one.
We are in your dreams,
She wants pie,
Chanel.
apple pie.
I want pie.
I don't know. I want
I
American
want
pie.
wolf pie.
Get the fuck out. See what you started, woman? Anyway, it was really great to see you. Yes. And I will have Shiya call you. I'm sure we will talk to you soon. As always, know that you are loved, girl.